So, peace. Seems like we could always use a little bit more of it, right? And I'm sure we have times where it seems out of reach. But God gives his peace to anyone who wants and asks for it. Jesus was literally called the Prince of Peace in Isaiah 9:6. That makes God the Father the King of Peace, and I know I'd want him on my side. And Paul did as well, particularly in Acts 27. He was a prisoner, put on a boat headed to Rome with some other prisoners, and they stopped shortly at Crete, and Paul told them that there was trouble ahead, but the captain thought they could make it to the next harbor without any trouble. This was a bad idea. All of a sudden, a storm came out of nowhere, a massive storm, the likes of which they'd never seen before. They had to throw all sorts of cargo and gear overboard, and they still smashed into sandbars, running aground, getting crushed against the land and the waves. The storm lasted for days, which eventually became weeks. Now, in something like this, what would you have done? I'm pretty sure most of us wouldn't do what Paul did. In verses 21 through 26, he basically says, "I told you so." He said they'd be shipwrecked on an island. In verse 23, specifically, he says something that's just pure gold. He says, "An angel of the God to whom I belong and whom I serve stood beside me." Can't you just hear the tone of his voice? The God to whom I belong. Like, none of your pagan gods can do anything like this. And now, no one had eaten in the 2 weeks since the storm started. And Paul noticed this, and he didn't like that. So, he got all of them around. He prayed for him, he broke the bread, and everyone was encouraged to eat. All 276 of them. So if God can help Paul on this crazy boat in the middle of this insane storm, I'm pretty sure he could help us too, don't you think? Now, Paul wraps this whole idea up nicely in a letter to the church of Philippi. He says, "Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all he has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus." Philippians 4:6-7.